re-educating the educators on ADHD, medication, and dyslexia. Who am I? So Albert Einstein and I have two things in common. The first, yes, is that we're both a little crazy. And the second is that we're both ADHD and dyslexic. Growing up in a family of 4 interesting ADHD dyslexic kids, I was exposed to the ins and outs and ups and downs of these learning disabilities. My poor brain, who I always have and always will refer to as Brian, has been through it all as I've given both his left and right sides a run for their money over the years, trying to adapt to different environments and forms of education. Why this topic? I believe there is still so much confusion over these learning disabilities and their medications. If I knew 15 years ago when I was first diagnosed what I know about it now, I would have done things very differently and life would have been way more fun. Hindsight is a powerful tool, and so that's why I want to share with the world what I know to as many people as I can to help others who are struggling, and for those of you who may have kids one day who are going to struggle. So, ADD versus ADHD. In 1994, doctors decided that all forms of attention deficit disorder would be called attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, even if the person wasn't hyperactive. So the signs to look out for are disorganization, inattention, disorganization, problems staying on task, constant daydreaming and not paying attention, impulsivity, including spur-of-the-moment decisions without thinking about the chance or harm of long-term effects, acting quickly to get an immediate reward, hyperactivity involving squirming, fidgeting, tapping, talking, and constant movement, especially when it's not appropriate. And then the dyslexia spectrum. Just as with ADHD, there are different forms of dyslexia ranging from mild to severe. And usually when people think of dyslexia, they think of just reading, writing, spelling, or math problems a child's having in school, with word or letter reversals, or just children who don't do well in school. Can any of you interpret this? This is what I'm faced with on a daily basis with dyslexia. We dyslexics have had to retrain our brains to decipher your normal. The phrase learning disability is only one face of the word dyslexia. Dyslexics are primarily non-verbal thinkers, so we think mainly in pictures instead of words, and this thinking is subliminal, so we don't even know that we're doing it. This is a list of some of my favorite famous dyslexics. And yes, not all dyslexics are going to be famous geniuses, but it's very important for us to know that having it just doesn't mean that we're just dumb or stupid. And following on from this, let me just remind you that you're special. There's such a stigma around learning disabilities, and throughout school and university, people would often tell me, how do you have ADHD and dyslexia when you're getting such good marks? And I realized that they all believed in the stereotype that people with these learning disabilities were just the little kids in the classroom that ate Ritalin to calm down, or the kids that struggled in school and they weren't supposed to succeed. I'd have to remind them that having these disabilities didn't mean that I was stupid and that I could still succeed. As the cliche saying goes, these learning disabilities are in fact a gift and include pros such as, but not limited to, good problem-solving skills, creativity, being excellent big picture thinkers, good at making connections and having conversational skills, having strong narrative reasoning, three-dimensional thinking using all senses, having vivid imaginations and high levels of empathy, having hyper-focused drive, courage and persistence, a sparkling personality, and we can utilize the brain's ability to create perceptions. Highlighting the effects of ADHD medication. There are many potential side effects, including headaches, blurred vision, trouble sleeping, irritability and moodiness, nervousness, loss of appetite and dry mouth, shakiness, high blood pressure, racing heartbeat, decrease in creative thoughts, quick rises in dopamine, and the list goes on. But I just want to highlight my biggest personal side effects of taking both Ritalin and Concerta. So for those with ADHD and dyslexia who are creative, medication may be a block. I can tell you right now that life on Ritalin and Concerta is very boring. There's a definite relationship between the medication and the part of the creative process called elaboration, i.e. coming up with as many ideas as possible. As with personal experience, taking the medication makes me want to not go off on any other thought tangents apart from normal logical processing. The inattentive state that we often get into when not on medication is often used for creative brainstorming and visualization, and this inattentive state constitutes what is called flow, a psychological state in which the individual is intensely involved in creative activity and thoughts. And this can be further described as a state of mind in which an individual becomes fully immersed in activity with a single-minded, focused involvement and intrinsic motivation. So sleep. Oh, sorry. I could go off on a whole new tangent about the importance of sleep after not believing in it for the majority of my life, but the Ritalin that I actually took this morning is telling me to stay on my main topic, so I'll save that for the next inspirational speech. And then personality. I found that taking these medications flattened my personality, and I found myself quiet, boring, and withdrawn, and I thought I had a problem, but now I know it was the medication. Obviously, this could mean that you're on a dose too high. However, when you start taking it from the ripe young age of 6, how do you even know what your normal is yet? And then the quick rise in dopamine from taking Ritalin can also produce a temporary feeling of euphoria, but can leave you feeling down after it wears off and increase general anxiety. So, plan B. Extra help and educational therapy. So you can go on specialized courses that can help you work on your weaknesses and tap into your strengths, and learn how to be grateful for the gifts that come with having dyslexia and ADHD. You'll learn to be way more motivated to work on your weaknesses if you know it's going to help you to improve your natural strengths. When I was younger, my parents forced me to go on endless extra courses, which I literally complained about so much at the time, but I'm really grateful for it now, thanks Mum and Dad. And then, don't over-medicate. This means taking medication only when extremely necessary and not every day. Many parents fear that without medicating their kids, they're not going to reach society's expectations of being accomplished and independent from an early age. However, I really believe that this is an unnecessary expectation to be placing on young children and may prevent creative individuals from letting their natural self unfold over time. And then, yes, I do still take Ritalin sometimes, and I may have taken it in writing this speech, but I do try to prioritize it so it's not often, because neither I nor my friends enjoy my Ritalin personality. And then, find your niche. Instead of always trying to change yourself, try to change your environment. In saying this, yes, you may have to persevere through some hard times, but as long as the life you're living is sustainable and the tough times don't last forever, then you'll be okay and come out stronger. This is also where the education system fits into the picture. It's easy to see that the educational system isn't made for those with learning disabilities, and teachers are forever trying to change children to fit into their convenient mold. I will never forget the anxiety that I experienced in my early days of learning when I was called up to read aloud for the class from books. I loved to chat, but reading from a book out loud was sheer torture for me. This is also why I bunked every single Afrikaans class in high school that involved set book reading. And this is where I use my great problem-solving skills to make a plan. Funny enough, I never got into trouble for this either, and I can pay this to my great interpersonal skills, for the connections that I formed with my teachers let me get away with murder. # the gifts of dyslexia. And you won't believe this story. So when my dad was in grade 2, he was told by his teacher to go read to the pigs. Little did she believe that he would go on to list his own company on the JSE by the age of 28. And since then, he's actually genuinely never read a book in his life, by the way. Educational institutions really need to be more adaptable and understandable of those with learning disabilities, especially in South Africa. They need to stop discriminating against us and offer more options for us to learn what suits us best, and offer an environment that can be conducive to the way we work. And a last reminder, in case you zoned out during my speech like I would have, in order for societies to support those with dyslexia and ADHD, we need to advocate these learning disabilities as neurodiverse brain wirings with their own strengths, often in creativity, in order for society to stop viewing them as only negative conditions. ADHD and dyslexia should be seen as something that can be so beneficial to individuals in society if our strengths are tapped into correctly, rather than just a disorder. And since I started my speech with Albert, I thought I better end here just to ensure that I didn't go off on any funny stories and weird paths like I'm famous for. Logic will get you from A to B, but imagination will take you everywhere. And trust me, I know.